Hey everyone, welcome back to this video series on the Jenkins CI tool. Today I'm going to talk about the Jenkins Master Slave configuration in AWS, right? So we are going to configure different slave nodes which can connect to the master node and can run those jobs which are triggered from the master node, right? Now, until now, in all my videos, I've been executing all my jobs on the master node itself. So that's the node where you install your Jenkins, right? So that could be your AWS EC2 server or a Linux server or on your local host. But that's the only possibility, right? So wherever your Jenkins is running, that would act as the master node. Now, it's fine when you are running a few jobs. You will be master node can trigger few jobs at a time. But what if you want to trigger thousands of jobs in parallel across different nodes, right? So that would be possible if you can configure different slave nodes, possibly in other servers, or you can use the EC2 AWS servers, cloud servers, right? So that will help you to run thousands of jobs in parallel across different nodes, right? So it's a pretty cool feature in Jenkins, and it's mostly used in every organization. Whenever you are working on a project, you need to have different slave nodes which could execute your jobs, right? So you won't be running all the jobs in your master node. So that's not kind of recommended. Okay, so saying that, let's go ahead and start configuring our slave node, right? So I'm not going to show you configuration for 3 slave nodes. Instead, I will show you just one slave node. And obviously, the configuration would be same. You can add as many nodes as you want, considering the AWS EC2 charges. So make sure you are aware of that, right? When you are configuring the number of nodes which you want to connect to a master node. Okay, so let's head back to our uh, EC2 dashboard, right, in AWS. So this is my EC2 dashboard. Obviously, the prerequisite is your Jenkins master is already running, and it is a EC2 Linux server which has got Jenkins installed in it, right? So your Jenkins is already running here in your EC2 server, right? So this is my Jenkins master instance, and then we will create a slave node, right, which is also a EC2 server, but we don't need to install Jenkins in that. Now, if you're wondering how to configure Jenkins in EC2 server, you can find that video on my YouTube channel uh, under the Jenkins playlist. If not, I have also provided you the link above. Just click on it and follow that video. Okay. So once you have configured your Jenkins master, we need to configure another EC2 server here, which can act as a slave node. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say launch instances. I'm going to create a new EC2 instance here. So just follow along. I'll choose the free tier eligible Amazon Linux, right? So we don't need to change this T2 micro. We'll continue with this. Configure instance details. There is nothing to change here. So we'll quickly move to storage. 8 GB is fine for us. So here we will add a tag in this tags section. Name, we'll give it a name here. Okay. And then we will call it Jenkins slave. Okay, next go to security group. Now here we need 3 types, right? One is SSH, so leave it as it is. And we'll need a TCP with 8080 open and HTTP, right? Because we will need to install some packages from the internet. So we'll open this. Now there is a warning that it is open to the complete internet, right? Because we haven't provided an IP address. If you want to make it more customized and more secure, right? So you can provide the IP address of your master node here. But for now, I will leave it open so that my master node can connect to this slave node. Okay, so review and launch and go ahead and launch this. So If you have a key pair, just choose that. Otherwise, you can generate a new key pair also. Okay, I will choose the existing one and launch the instance. It will take some time to launch the instance. We'll go ahead and view the instance here. Okay, it's still not in running state. That's why it is not showing here. So I'll give it some time until this is running in running state, and then we will move ahead. Okay, as you can see, both our master and slave are now in running state. So let's go ahead and SSH into our slave node first, right? We need to do some configuration here. We need to generate some private keys, and we need to store it in known hosts in our master EC2 server, right? So these are all the commands which you need to perform on the SSH terminal. So let's go ahead and connect to our EC2 server, which is our slave node. Okay, so just make sure you are connecting to the right node. What I have done is I have saved my configuration here, right? So we'll see whether I need to change the IP address. So this is our slave node, and this is our IP address. Okay, so the EC2 user will remain same. That's the default user for AWS instances. And then we need to choose a authentication key, right? So I already have that Jenkins slave. And now I will go ahead and connect or SSH into this instance, right? Now, a very generic command which you can run on whenever you create a new instance is sudo yum update. It updated all your packages on this EC2 instance, right? Just to make sure you have all the latest packages. After this, what we'll do is just to make sure we will run this command in order to update the Java on this instance, right? So that's pretty much required. So just make sure you are doing that. I'll just pause for a while until this completes. Okay, so that's completed. Now let's go ahead and run the command for updating our Java. Click on yes. So right now it's installing. Now let's look at our next steps, right? So next steps is setting up the Jenkins slave, right? We'll add a user here. Then we will generate our SSH keys, right? And then what we'll do, we'll copy this public key into this authorized keys and give it the right permissions. So these are the steps we need to perform, okay? So let's see if it is completed. It's completed, okay? So let's go ahead and perform the steps now. So we need to add a user here. So let's say sudo useradd, right? And then I need to log in into that user, log in with that user, okay? Now I need to generate this SSH keys here. So that's generated. And I can cd into the .ssh folder. I can also do ls just to make sure those generated. This is the private key and this is the public key. Okay. Now what we need to do, we need to copy this into a authorized keys file. Okay. And we need to provide the right permissions to that file so that it can be accessed whenever required. Okay, so just to make sure, so this is my authorized keys file. Now we'll see how it is used, right? What will happen is from the master EC2 server, we'll kind of copy these keys into our known host file in master. So that's what we are going to do next. Okay, so this configuration is completed. Now let's connect to our master EC2 server, right? So let's load this and choose our authentication key. And open this. So here Java is updated, so I don't need to perform that step here again. What I need to do is I need to create a .ssh folder inside this Jenkins folder, right? So, okay, I need to put sudo here, and then let's enter into the directory, or let's actually give it permissions first, right? So that we can make changes in that, and I will enter into that directory here. And then this is the command to copy that keys into this known host file. Now, this IP address should be the private IP address of the slave node. So let's go here and copy this and paste it here. So now copy this command and execute it here. Okay, we need to put sudo again. Okay, so let's see whether we have got, okay, I need to exit of this directory first. And let me just check this directory for .ssh. Seems we don't have permissions here, so let's run this again. It should have changed the permissions. Okay, and let's run the command again. Okay, and I think we have got the permissions now. So let's try again. Okay, done. And if so let's first give it the permissions which is required to the known host file. So we have copied our keys into this file. So okay, we need to cd into .ssh folder, and just to make sure we have the known host file here, right? So now copy this, and we will give Jenkins the permission to edit this file. Okay, so this is the permissions, and so here you see known host has permission, Jenkins has permissions to edit this file known hosts. Okay, so that's all configuration required for the master node and the slave node. Now, once that's completed, we can head to our Jenkins, right? And here we need to do manage Jenkins and go to manage nodes and clouds. So here we'll create our new slave node. So click on new node and give it a name here, slave1. Make it a permanent agent. Description, you can give slave node for AWS Jenkins or something. Here you can select the number of executors, which is the number of jobs it can run simultaneously. In remote root directory, you can say home/your user, right? So that's Jenkins slave1. So that's the user we have created. And you can give it a label here, which could be slave. We will leave this as it is. And this we will change it to launch agents via SSH. Right, so this host will be the private host. So let's copy that here and paste it here. Okay, now we need to go and add our credentials here for our Jenkins slave. So This will be Jenkins slave 1 username. And okay, before that, we need to change this to SSH user with private key. Okay, and description, you can give anything here or not required even. Here we will say Jenkins slave 1 and private key. Okay, so here we need to give the private key which is generated in our slave node, right? So let's head back to the slave node. It's disconnected. Let me reconnect that. Load this. And again, we need to select auth key here. So slave and open. Okay, so we are connected now. And now what we need to do, we need to switch to our user which we created, right? So we can copy the private keys from there. So let's switch that and we will go to .ssh. Here we will find we need the private key, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do more, and let me maximize the screen here, and IDRS. Now make sure you copy the whole content from here. If you make any mistake, it won't work, right? So be very careful while doing this. And now just paste the private key here. Okay, and click on add. Now we need to choose credentials as Jenkins slave 1 here. Okay, availability, you can leave it as it is and click on save. Okay, so our slave node is created now. It will take some time to connect. So you can do is you can go and check the logs, right? And you will see here message agent successfully connected and online. Now, if you don't see this message and it is trying to reconnect, then you can be sure that you have made some mistake in the configuration. So head back and check your steps, which I have shown you in this video, right? Until you get this message on your agent. So once you get that, and you can go back to manage Jenkins, manage nodes and clouds, you will see this slave is connected now, right? And it has got a label also, which is called the slave, and it will show projects tagged to slave 1. Okay, so our master and slave, both nodes are now ready. Now, if you want to run a sample job on this, we can do that. So let's create a sample job. We'll choose the pipeline project because it's easy to create, right? Now, what you can do, you can choose this hello world. It's a very simple pipeline script. It just prints echo hello world, right? The only thing you need to change is in agent any, you need to give agent slave. Okay, so that's the only change you need to do. Let me check whether what we need to provide in this agent, right? So then I'll make this change. Okay, just verified it, and this is the format we need to follow. So this should be your agent, right? Whatever label you provided, just provide the label here for your slave node. And click on save. Go back to dashboard. This is our sample job. And as you can see in build executor status, right? You will see the master can run 2 jobs, but the slave can run 5 jobs. Now it depends on the number of executors while configuring this slave node. So if you give 10 executors, it can run 10 jobs at a time, right? So now what we can do is let's trigger these jobs and we'll see whether it is being triggered in this slave node. So I have triggered the job. And let's go back to dashboard. So something is wrong here. Let's configure this. Okay, so I think we have made some mistake in this. So, okay, so there is some mistake. Sorry for that. Right, so we need to mention it like this: label and then slave for agent. So click on save and we'll try this again. Okay, so go back to dashboard and we'll say build now, and we'll monitor whether it is being run or not. Okay, so it ran successfully, as you can see. Probably it was very fast, so that's why we could not see in this build executor status. But if you're running a real job which has got some steps, you will see this is being triggered here, right? Okay. So here is the pipeline status. As you can see, the first two did not run, but after that it ran successfully. Okay. Now, if you want to see the logs, let me check whether, yeah. So here you can make out where exactly it is running. Because it was running very fast, that's why maybe it was not showing in the build executor status. But on the console output, you can easily verify whether it ran on the master or on the slave, right? So here it is clearly saying running on slave 1 in this workspace, right? And it printed whatever message we have provided in the pipeline script, and then it succeeded. So this is how you can run your jobs in your slave nodes, right? You can run any number of jobs depending on the number of executors it has, and you can obviously configure any number of nodes. I just showed you configuring one node. You can configure multiple nodes in the exact same way, right? So that's all for this video. I hope you liked it and you learned something useful in configuring your Jenkins CI tool, right? In the coming up videos, I will show you more exciting things which you can do in Jenkins. So keep following here and we'll come up with a new video very soon. So thanks for joining and see you in the next video.